Is there anyone you look up to in your life? For me, it was two people, my dad and Jim Rohn. So as you can probably tell, we're in the green room right now, about to go on stage in front of thousands of people, a stage that Jim Rohn helped build with this huge company.
People have asked me why Herbalife, and I want to give you just a little list of why Herbalife has become such a remarkable company.
Throughout this video, I'm going to share with you the 6 different fundamentals and the lessons and the tips and tricks that help me go from absolute zero to, let's say, hero, and how you can do the same. Come on, man, come on.
Get him, baby, you got it, you got it.
Thank you, all right! Woo! Oh, I'm a network marketer. I want to build my business on social media. Guys, don't ask. All you gotta do is ask. My grandmother used to say, hey, if you don't ask, you don't get. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. So fun story. When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, my dad was traveling all over the UK building his business and he used to take me with him. But every time you got into the car, the music didn't play. There was this one cassette tape. And it used to play with this guy just speaking and speaking, and there was some audience laughter and cheering. And then about halfway through it would go, please turn over to side B for more from Jim Rohn. He used to take the cassette out, turn it over, put it in the cassette player, and it would go again. And it would just keep going over and over and over again. I'm like, Dad, can you please turn this guy off? It's so boring. I was 5, I was 6, I was 7 years old. And every single time I asked him to turn it off, he would pull the car alongside the road. He would turn around to me and say, Frazer, one day you were gonna thank me for this great man. And then he would continue driving. And I would start to listen, and I would listen more and more and more. And as I got older, I started to realize, wow, the philosophies, the lessons, the quotes that this great man was sharing would have a massive impact on my life. But here was the conflict that I had. I looked up to this great man virtually, but in person I had my dad, and my dad was a rock star. He was my biggest hero, but I didn't think that I could be like him. So I decided to take a different path. Although I knew all this stuff from Jim Rohn and my dad, I decided to go to university to get a degree in construction management. And as a British kid, I loved to go party. And I lived for the weekend, but I extended the weekend from a Friday, Saturday, Sunday to a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Things got crazy, things weren't looking good. I had to make a change. And I truly thought in life my greatest accomplishment would have been my degree in construction management. Then one day I had a huge breakthrough moment. I remember something that I learned from Jim Rohn years and years and years ago. For things to change, you gotta change. For things to get better, you've gotta get better. So I decided to make a change in my life. And throughout this video, I wanna show you how to make that same change. So it wasn't until I went to Salt Lake City in Utah for the first time, my dad invited me to this huge event. There was 10,000 people speaking at this event, and I was so fired up to go and support my dad, but I was literally just going to make numbers. Like I had no expectation, and my dad kept saying about this magical emotion that everyone must feel in order to kind of get started, because it kind of gives them the belief that they can do it, right? And I see this, I'm in the back of the room, really close to the exit door, because I wanted to just go in and out, in and out, in and out. And this guy walks on stage, and he looks lost. He's got his flannel t-shirt on, or flannel shirt on. He looks a couple of years older than me, and I'm thinking, this guy is so awkward, like even I wouldn't be as awkward as that. And he comes to the front, he gets the microphone, and he just goes, wow, there's so many people. And like half the audience is laughing, the other half is like, what's going on? I'm laughing, I'm thinking, this is great, who is this guy? And the company give him a bonus check for $1 million. And my jaw is on the floor. And I finally had that emotion that I've been hearing all about, that I've been craving for, that I never thought I can get. And that is, if they can do it, if she can do it, if he can do it, so can I. I never had that. I never got that from Jim Rohn, I never got that from my dad, but I got that from this guy. And hey, if you're watching this guy, I don't know your name, but if you're watching it and you remember that moment, please message me so I can thank you. Because one of my biggest regrets, because you made a big, big change in my life without even knowing it. So the first point is realizing that you can do it. It's often just finding some stories or some proof or some evidence that you can. There's no reason why you can't, so you've got to believe in yourself. And I know that sounds cliche, but it truly is the first step to becoming your own hero. Now, it's not enough to just believe in yourself. You have to find someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. Now, here's the thing. The first time I ever stepped on stage, I was actually just burst into tears. Didn't say my name, didn't say hey, didn't say anything. I just cried my eyes out. So let me walk you through that. So the same doesn't apply to you. All right, so me and my dad, we decided to go to this event in the UK in a place called Cheshire, Crew Hall Hotel. I can never forget it. And my dad's driving the car, I'm in the passenger seat, there's a couple of people behind us, and then we've got like 4 or 5 cars following us, full of people who are my friends, people who I grew up with, people I used to go party with. We go to the event, and I keep saying to my dad in the car on the way down there, I said, Dad, I'm not speaking, right? I'm not speaking. At this stage, I was using a product, I was promoting a business, like things were going good. And he says, no, I wouldn't do that to you. I know you don't want to speak in front of people. I know you have that phobia as a huge introvert. And the first session goes, I didn't speak. All I was thinking about was myself. Then the lunch break, everything was fine. The second session starts. There's one speaker, comes off, and then my dad gets the microphone and says, now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to my favorite person who's in this room right now. He lives in the upstairs of my house, my son, Frazer Brookes. And I was like a deer in the headlights, a rabbit in the headlights. I looked immediately to the exit door. There were 2 what looked like huge bodybuilders. They were like, you're not coming this way. I made my way through the middle of the room to the stage. My dad passed me the microphone and said, good luck. I held the microphone at the very, very bottom. And you could see you could see my nerves through the microphone shaking from side to side. I couldn't find any words. I was petrified. It was my biggest phobia. And I just cried my eyes out. There was 400 people in that room. I would say 20 of them at the back of the room with my friends. And when I travel around the world and speak on stage, they often ask me like, hey, do you still cry on stage? And I go, yeah, sometimes. And do you still work that 9 to 5? Yeah, okay. 2 can play that game. But one of the most important things happened to me on that drive home. Because can you imagine that? I was full of rage. How could my dad betray me? How could he do this to me? And we're driving on the way home, it's silent. 2 hours in the car, just me and my dad. The passengers before decided to get another car. I just was thinking of ways, how am I gonna murder him and get away with it? How am I gonna tell him that he just betrayed me? So we get home, we park the car, my dad turns to me, I turn to my dad. I remember it like yesterday, and he says, you're never gonna let that happen again, are you? And all the anger and rage left my body. Because I realized, hang on a minute, this was my dad testing me. This was my dad saying, I believe that you can do this. Go and show me what you can do. And I felt like I let him down. So I left the car, I went upstairs, and I wrote down on a piece of paper exactly word for word what I would have said. And the next time I went to the event, I had the piece of paper with me. And I read it from the piece of paper. I had no shame in that. The next time, I didn't have the piece of paper, I had bullet points. The next time, I said it freely. And I said that hundreds and thousands of times over the years, and still today, I've said that same story in 40 different countries around the world. So my point here is, you've got to find someone who believes in you more than you believe in yourself to give you that double proof, that double evidence that you truly can do this. In every industry, there are many, many different leaders. So it's all about finding that leader and giving them a reason to pay attention to you, provide value to them, share your story to them, share the reason why you're doing this business, and you'll be surprised. They'll believe in you before you believe in yourself. Big change you need to make if you want to be your own hero is going from the how to the who. So when I was in university, I was always learning the how to do this, how to do that, how to, and I was building skill, I was growing, but I was not inspired. And then sometimes I would have this skill and I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want to be a construction manager. I didn't have the who to look up to. And that's when I realized in business, I had the who figure. I had my father, I had Jim Rohn, and I was able to turn those skills and transform those skills into something that would progress me towards the hero that I wanted to be. So you need to find the who. Where do they hang out? What do you need to do to get their attention? How do you approach them? Answer these questions and you will find them so much easier than you think. Now, you might think you want to have loads of different who's. You could have 3 who's, 5 who's, 10 who's, 20 who's, whatever that might be. Some of them aren't going to be accessible. Some of them are going to be virtual. Find the ones that you can get in front of. Find the ones that you can meet in person, because those relationships, when you get to know the true person behind, game changer. So if someone was to come to me and say, hey, I want you to be my who, I would ask, like, what's your why? What's your goals? What are the steps you're going to take? And you maybe say like, hey, tell me, what step do I need to take? I will give you one step, and here's what I'll say. Don't tell me, show me. Don't tell me you're gonna do the work. Show me that you're gonna take the first step, because I promise you, as a leader, as someone who wants you to win, if I tell you to do something and you do it, I will do everything to help you win. But if I tell you to do something and you ignore that advice, I'm wasting my time. Don't waste the who's time. So next thing, as we're packing up here, as we're about to head back to Dubai from Chicago, it's been so fun being in the city. Number 4 would be doing the basics better more often. All right, so first and foremost, you've obviously got to establish what the basics are, and then you've got to do them, and then you've got to do them more often, and then you've got to do them long enough until the results come. Too many people, they mess up big time, man, because they say something like, how long does it take for me to be successful? Will it take a year? Will it take 3 years? Will it take a month? Whatever it might be. But the reality is you've got to do it as long as you can until the results come, right? Because if you truly commit to the goal, you don't just give your wife, you don't just give your husband a year. You give it whatever it takes. You make it through the ups and the downs. So like, for example, one of the basics would be in your life is you brush your teeth, right? You shower, you get dressed, you get changed, all of that fun stuff. But in your business, depending on what you're doing, it could be post on social media, start a new conversation, follow up with someone. You know the basics, you do the basics. You know the basics, you do the basics. So establish what the basics are in whatever it is that you're doing. Find the who and tell the who, like, hey, I'm doing these basics. If I do them over and over and over again, is there anything that you would do differently? Instead of, hey, I don't know what the basics are, tell me. It's like, this is what I feel the basics are, am I on the right path? It will impress your who way more if you come to them with what you think you should be doing instead of asking, what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? And too many people overcomplicate things. Like, business is actually very, very simple. It's finding the repeatable things to do every single day that builds your character. Yeses build your business, nos build your character. But when you have a bigger character, you'll get more yeses anyway, therefore you build your business. And the thing, in my life, I got to a situation, especially in my business, where I was overcomplicating things for the sake of overcomplicating things. I was just making this like, oh, in order to make millions of dollars, surely I must have this super, super complicated system. And then I thought, you know what? Starbucks is super simple. You go in, you order a coffee, you give them your name, you get the coffee. McDonald's, you go in, you look at the food, you order the food, they say, would you like fries with that? What size? And you get it. Apple, you go in, you look around, they get it. Everything's so simple. Google is a white page with a logo and a search bar. It's so simple. Why are you overcomplicating things? You don't need to. So point number 5 on your way to becoming your own hero is understanding that messy action is going to get you so much further than you think. Like, you're going to learn more. You learned this from Jim Rohn so many times, that you're going to learn so much more from losing than you ever will from winning. And there's so many of you who are watching this right now, and I've been there, who are too much of a perfectionist. Like, you're trying to get everything perfect, get all the ducks in a row before you start moving. And then you do start moving. Some of you won't start moving, but when you do start moving, you won't lose. And that's the problem. You're losing before you get going because you're trying to be perfect. And the reality is, when you win, you don't learn anywhere near the number of lessons that you do when you lose. So messy action, fail forward, lose more than you win, and then eventually one day you will win way more than you lose. In fact, they say this, the secret or the formula to success, and in this situation to be your own hero, is failure plus failure plus failure plus failure plus failure equals success. So my dad, when I got started, he said, make a list of everyone you want to contact. Try and aim for like 100, 200 people. And I went upstairs to my bedroom, I was living at home at the time, and I wrote 137 names and numbers. And I had like 2 emotions. I was like super excited for the opportunity to be able to speak to these people, and super nervous. What would happen when my grandmother says, go get a real job? What would my best friend say when he says it's a pyramid thing? Like, whatever it might have been, it was an interesting feeling that I had. And I spoke to 27 people in a row and got 27 no's in a row. And I felt about this big. I felt like the biggest loser in the world. And I went down to my dad, and before I was gonna quit on him, I saw my mum dancing in the kitchen. Like from that scene from Ms. Doubtfire, when she's kind of going like, dude looks like a lady. And I was flooded with joy. I went back upstairs and I wrote down on my piece of paper that network marketing is turning strangers into friends, friends into family. And at that moment, my biggest failure at that time was getting 27 no's in a row. And I ended up creating one of my biggest philosophies. I've written it in my first book, I Dare You. I share it on stage all over the world, is that you got to just turn strangers to friends, friends to family. And it applies for every business. How do you get more strangers through your door? How do you give them such a good service that then they become a friend? And then how do you treat them so well over the long term that they become a family member? You invite them to your wedding, you go on holiday with them, not all your customers, but some people, they become friends of yours. And you'll find that the most relatable stories that you have are from losses. So don't be afraid to lose, don't be afraid to mess up, don't be afraid to fail forward, because the lessons that you can share onto other people will lean in instead of, oh yeah, well he just wins every time, like I can't relate to him, I'm not gonna be like him. Because remember, the moments that you need to inspire people for them to see you as the hero is, if he can do it, so can I. And you know what? One thing that you have to understand and appreciate is, yes, they say that leaders are readers, but more important of all, leaders are seeders. And I want you to imagine in this example that you have to put the seeds in your life, the people in your life are represented by the seeds. But if you just kind of start a relationship and then you don't nurture them, you're leaving the seeds on the ground. And guess what happens? The birds are going to come and they're going to take the seeds and they're going to use them as bird food, right? So instead you build a deep relationship, which is you burying a hole as deep as you can to plant the seed at the very bottom, and then you come back every single day. The seed will have gone nowhere, and you nurture and you nurture and you nurture. The deeper the root, the tastier, the better the fruit. But here's the thing, the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. All right, so you have to understand and appreciate it's about width of relationships, but more important of all, it's about the depth of relationships. So if you want to be a hero in someone else's life, like this great man was to me and my family, then you have to consistently repeat and repeat and repeat the message to same and different people to build the depth. And what gets repeated gets remembered, what gets remembered gets repeated. All right, it's one of the biggest keys for sure. So my wish for you is that you go out there and take action on some of these steps, and I can't wait one day that I get to see you somewhere around the world and that you become a hero to other people in your life.
Oh my. Man, I don't understand how I'm gonna eat the whole thing. That's like 5 pizzas stacked on top of each other. Let's see what it's like, let's see what it's like. Oh shit, it's a pie? It's a pie? It's not a pizza, it's a pie? Oh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited.